This is your captain speaking. Captain no account of the Mosaic Deluge. It's the 16th of November. In the year 2010, we're still docked here in this unloved port. And I just spent an hour trying to upload one of these blogs to the YouTube, and only to have it cut out at the last minute because I had a phone call. I'm doing this via my smartphone, but it's not so smart. If I answer it, then it clicks off the recording or the downloading of the recording or something like that. Anyway, I had to start all over again. And I hate doing it over again because you lose the spontaneity of what you had to say the first time. Of course, it is a little like a rehearsal. It's not terrible to have a rehearsal, but I'm not a rehearser. I've just taken a tour of the dry dock. We were looking at the building, the arch. The arch is in a very sad state. You know, the flood was not gentle on the arch. Well, it was an old ship before the flood. It was 120 years old and counting, and the flood was merciless. Came back a shipwreck, and we've been shivering its timbers right down to its timbers, and now it's a sad creature. And it looks like the innards, the bones of a whale without the meat on it anymore. Everything's been stripped from it. Anyway. And I've been here accompanying the process for the last 8 months, and I don't know, I've spent some time, like I always do after a voyage, you know, trying to organize my memoirs, my ship's logs, make sure everything's been covered. But it's a little like a grieving process. You know, it's the end of an era, the end of a voyage. You spend a bit of a time memorializing your experience. And now it's all about death and destruction. Reminds me of Paul's Death of a Hippie. Kind of moving on from one kind of work to another kind of work, from the sculptures to the installation, and a passage, and laying something out, your previous work. And I talked to collections about accepting my papers and that sort of thing. It's not that I can't begin again. I mean, resurrection and reconstruction is always part of death and destruction. It's a little like a divorce. I've never actually gone through one, but I can understand what it's like to be surrounded by everything, the kind of reminder of what's going on before, and you still want to start something new. It's sort of like Grant Wood saying at the end of his life that he wanted to change his name, move someplace where nobody knew him, and start painting in a different style. And I think he did want to do that, but I'm not sure he could have. He probably, if I'm right, he probably wanted to move to Palm Beach and have a houseboy. But I think he also thought he could change his style, but I'm not sure he would have. It's a big thing to do at your age because, you know, what I actually came to the realization that when you start over again, then you kind of evaluate who you're doing it for. And there was a time when I was younger when I did it for my parents and their friends, and I wanted to impress adults. And then when I became an adult, or a young adult, I wanted to impress my teachers and then eventually my mentors, Stefan and Ritzart and Scotty and George, and then that's the problem right now. I don't know exactly who my audience is, who I'm doing it for anymore. I mean, I teach. I've been teaching some cabin boys and girls how to tie knots and sew buttons on their bell-bottom trousers, but nothing really. The communication is like it's different, and all the sailors around here with any experience, they're kind of landlocked. They've settled down. They've retired to their little lighthouses and cottages, and they're just they're different. They've settled down. Sometimes I feel like I'm shipwrecked, like I'm beached on an island in a sea of corn. I can start. I've got new materials. I've got new ideas, but I'm trying to think of who I'm doing it for. My peers, I guess, the fellow captains, the fraternity, the officers' club, I suppose. They're about the only ones. They're about the oldest ones around anyway. If I always did it for the older people, now I'm one of the older people. So that's what I'll do it for. I'll do it just so that I don't sit around singing sea chanties and telling stories of my adventure. I long for the sea and visiting ports. So I've got to pull it together, but it gets harder and harder every voyage. Well, enough of that. We've got some work to do, and for now, this is your captain, no account, signing off, and your friend. Good night.